What's going on, YouTube? It's about that time again. Now we're going to tune in to Real Talk 100, coming live to you. And we're going to talk about Ryan White, the first kid that diagnosed with AIDS. Before we get this show started, I'm going to say thank you for tuning in to Real Talk 100. Give me your feedbacks about this. Hit the thumbs up, you agree. Hit the thumbs out, you disagree. Hit the like button before I talk about this. And hit the notification bell when you stay notified when I drop out a new one. So, again, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Real Talk 100. And we give me your feedbacks and subscribe to it so you can catch me and you can follow me on Instagram on Real Talk 100. So let's get this started. Ryan White was born in December 6, 1971. He was born in St. Joseph's Memorial Hospital in Kokomo, Indiana, by the parents Hubin Wayne and Jeanette Elaine White. He was circumcised when he was just 3 days old. He was circumcised, and the bleeding would not stop when he was just 3 days old. So the doctors had diagnosed him with serve hemophilia, a hereditary blood coagulation disorder associated with an X chromosome, which is cause of a minor injury to result of certain bleeding. For treatment, he received weekly infusions of factory a blood produced created from pooled plasma of non-homophiliate, an increasingly common treatment for homophiliate at the time. So he had a blood transfusion. But mind you not, this blood they gave him has AIDS. It was a rumor. I know how true that is. Hit the like button. So the healthy, for the most of his childhood, White became extremely ill with pneumonia in December 1984. On December 17th, 1984, during a lung biopsy, White was diagnosed with AIDS by the time the scientific community had studied the academic in great detail early that year. HTLV-3 was identified as isolated by American research scientists, confirmed that the work was done by French research scientists who had called a laugh. A lengthy public battle would determine who should be recognized as a discoverer of a human retrovirus delay of development of the test, where that was later called HIV. White had apparently received a contaminated treatment of factors 8 that was infected with HIV. So when they gave him a treatment, the treatment has HIV in this treatment, and it was contaminated. So it got worse of what it was. So when people go out there, donate blood, and what they should, this back at the time, they didn't have, they had when you go donate your blood, like a blood bank, when you go donate your blood in, then anybody can go in to get to donate their blood for a little bit of money. Hit the like button. So when White have apparently received this contaminated treatment factor when it was infected with HIV, as thousands of Americans with hemophilia and homophiliates around the world at the time because the virus has only recently been identified and is there no screening or blood produced, much at the pool factor 8 concentrated was contained. Blood banks and pharmaceutical companies dismissed call by the CDC used as a hepatitis B test as a surrogate until HIV test could be developed. Later plasmid produced as screening and heat treatment of the deactivated both HIV and hepatitis among hemophiliacs treated with the blood clot factors between 1979 and 1984, where nearly 90% become infected with HIV and or hepatitis C at the time of his diagnosis, which is the white T cell counts, and it dropped down to 25 per cubic milliliters. A healthy individual without HIV has around 500 to 1200 below 200 of AIDS defined in the US. So doctors predicted Ron White have only 6 months to live. So when they gave him this, it was a rumor that the blood transfusion they give him, because he was a loser, it's all behind he was being circumcised and he lost a lot of blood. And when they gave him this blood transfusion, when they gave him this blood transfusion, they didn't even check and see that the thing was HIV in it. They should have checked it, hit the like button. So that was messed up. That's on them. So after the diagnosis, White was too ill to return to school. But by early 1985, beginning of he feeling better, his mother asked if he could return to school, but was told by the school officials that he could not. On June 30th, 1985, former request of permit readmitted to school was denied by the Western School Corporation Superintendent James O. Smith, sparking an administration appeal process that lasts over 9 months. So he could not go back to school. He can't go back to school, because if he go back to school, then he gonna be passing it around other children. So it'd be safe for him not to go back to school. So now the thing about it is, when he went to Western Middle School in Russellville, Indiana, faces enormous pressure of any parents and for serving to prefer White from returning. So they didn't want him. So everybody at that school was signing a petition with 117 parents, 360 students, and 50 teachers all signed a petition to ban Ryan White out of that school, because they don't want to go near him. They don't want to teach an AIDS patient. So due to the widespread fear of ignorance of AIDS, the principal and later the school board succumbed to this pressure and prohibited readmittance. The whole family the White family had filed a federal lawsuit seeking an overturn of the decision that the Whites intentionally filed in the U.S. District Court of Southern District of Indiana. The court, however, declined to hear the case until the administrative appeal has been resolved. On November 25th, an Indiana Department of Education officer ruled that the school must follow the Indiana Board of Health guidelines that the White must be allowed to attend school. So the health line told them that he got to still come to school even if he has AIDS or not. But those people there, like, no, we don't want him back. We don't want him back because he has it. They have every right to feel that way. Like, if you go and check a kid in school right now, that's why they have tetanus shots. They have they all go get those flu shots and get those tetanus shots for a reason. Hit the like button. So in the mid of late 1980s, the means of transmission of HIV was not yet fully understood. Scientists knew the spread with blood has not been transmissible by any sort of casual contact, such as shaking hands and being in the same room. But as recently of 1983, the American Medical Association had doubted the evidence suggests household made transmitted AIDS and the belief that the disease has easily spread parasite. The children with AIDS are still where at the time of white rejection from schools, the CDC, the City of Disease Control and Prevention, only knew the only 148 cases of pediatric AIDS in the United States. Many families in Kokomo believe that his presents process of unsusceptible risk. When White was permitted to return school for one day of February 1986, 151 to 360 students stayed home. He also worked as a paperboy, and many of people of his route canceled their subscription, believing that HIV could be transmitted through newsprint. So when he was a paperboy, a lot of people, many of people of his route canceled their subscription. People was canceled their subscription of the newspaper. So when Ryan White passes out newspaper at their front door or whatever, they found out as well. They said, okay, let me cancel this because I don't want no spread. I don't want no disease on me. I don't want no AIDS spreading on me on the paper. But they don't understand and realize it's not transmitted when you pass out the newspaper. So a lot of people at this point don't want to be near him, which I understand that too. So now the Indiana State Health Commission, Dr. Woodrow Myers, who had extended experience treating AIDS patients in San Francisco and Center of Disease Control and Prevention, both noticed that the Board of White posted no risk of other students at the school board of many parents ignored their statements. By February 1986, the New England Journal of Medicine published about the study of 101 people that had spent 3 months living in close and benign sexual contact with people with AIDS. The study conclusion of the risk of the infection has minimized to non-extent. So even when they contact includes sharing toothbrushes, razors, clothes, combs, or drinking glasses, and sleeping in the same bed, or hugging or kissing. So when White was finally remitted in April, a group of families withdrew their children and started an alternative school. Threats of violence, a lawsuit proceeded. According to White's mother, people on the streets were offering Yale. We know you're queer and white. So now they think White is gay. They think they didn't want to go there. So now violence been going on at the school now because they was like putting them in school and they didn't want him to go to school. So they frustrated. Hit the like button. They frustrated now because they didn't want him in those schools. So now nobody want to go near him. Like if you go to the store, they like because Kokomo, Indiana is not a very big town. It's kind of a small, medium town that everybody know everybody. So they was even receiving death threats to that family. So why attended Western Middle School for the 8th grade during the 1995 and 1986 school year, he was deeply unhappy to have few friends. The school required him to eat with disposable utilities and separate bathrooms and waive his equipment requirement to enroll in a gym class. Threats continue, so they continue sending death threats. When the bullets was flying through the White's living room window, no one was home at the time, so they shot at his house. Hit the like button. They shot at Ryan White's house. thank God nobody wasn't there. The family decides they had to leave. They had been forced to leave Kokomo at the finish the school year, and then they ended up moving to Cicero, Indiana, where he began the ninth grade at Hampton Heights High School in Arcadia, Indiana. On August 31st, 1986, a very nervous White was greeted by the school principal, Tony Cook, school system superintendent Bob G. Cardinal, and a handful of students who been educated about AIDS and were afraid to shake White's hand. They were scared to shake his hand. They had scared to shake his hand. So the thing is, when people diagnosed with these kind of diseases, you do not, you stuff like that, sometimes you keep to yourself. But in other words, when you got a disease that you cannot get rid of, like AIDS or whatever, you have to stay from a distance, because at the time they ain't had antiviral medications. They had them antiviral medications to take every day when you caught this HIV. And it was all from a blood transfusion. Then people were shouting out, calling Ryan White a queer. So the publicity of White's story catapulted him into national spotlight. A growing wave of AIDS coverage in the news media between 1985 and 1987. The number of the news stories about AIDS in American media doubt. Why isolated from middle school, White appeared frequently in national television and newspaper and discussed of the tribulations with this disease. Eventually, he became known as the poster child for the AIDS crisis. Appearing of fundraising and educational campaign for the syndrome, White participated in numerous public benefits for the children with AIDS. Many celebrities appeared with him, started doing his trial. When continuing for the rest of his life to help purposely design social life with AIDS singers like John Mellencamp, Elton John, Michael Jackson, Matt Frewer, Greg Longnes, President Ronald Reagan, and the First Lady Nancy Reagan, and even the coach Bob Knight, and the basketball players Kareem Jabbar, and he even be friends with White, because he was friends with many children with AIDS and possibly divided conditions. So for the rest of his life, White appears freely on Phil Donahue talk show in 1986. His celebrity crush, Elisa Mino, which is the popular TV show Who's the Boss, met White and gave him a friendship bracelet and a kiss. Elton John loans Janine White $16,500 to put towards a down payment on Cicero home, and ready to accept payment placed to repay money back into the college fund for White's sister. In high school, White drove a red 1998 Ford Mustang LS 5.0, a gift from Michael Jackson. Despite of fame and donations, White stated that he disliked the public spotlight, loathed remorse that simply blamed his parents or his upbringing for his illness, and emphasized that he would be willing to any moments of trading his fame for freedom for this disease. So he really didn't need the fame. He really don't need the fame. right now because he ain't got that much to live. So he ain't got that much to live. So he really don't care for the fame at this point. So by 1988, the White spoken before the President Commission on the HIV epidemic. White told the commission of the discrimination that he had faced when he was trying to return to school, but how education about the disease would make him welcome in a town of Cicero, Indiana. White emphasized his different experience in Kokomo and Cicero as an example of power of importance of AIDS education. So by 1989, ABC aired a television movie called The Ryan White Story, starring Lucas Hayes and White's Judith Light as Janine and Nikki Cox as his sister Andrea. White as the small cameo appearance of Chad in the film, playing as a boy who has HIV and later befriends with Hash. Others of film, including Sarah Jessica Parker as the sympathy nurse, George Disney as the doctor, and George Scott as the white attorney who legally argued against school board authorities. Nielsen estimated that the movie has seen by 15 million viewers. Some residents of Kokomo felt that the movie was condemning them of their actions against whites after the film aired. The office of Kokomo Mayor Robert F. Sargent was flooded with complaints from across the country, although the Sargent has not been mayor during that time of the controversy. So by early 1990, White Health as determined Ripley as his first public appearance as the host of at the Oscar party with former President Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy in California. Despite of declining health, White spoken to the Reagans about his date to the prom and hope of attending college. On March of 1990, White entered Raleigh Hospital for the Children in Indianapolis with a respiratory tract infection as his condition deteriorating. He was sedated and placed on a ventilator. Elton John paid him a visit, and the hospital was delusional. The lunch with calls for well washing. So by April 8th, 1990, White died. Over 1,500 people attended White's funeral on April 11th, a standing room only event held at the Second Prosperity Church of Metro Streets of Indianapolis. White pallbearers include Elton John, football star Howie Long, and Phil Donahue. Elton John performed Skyline Pigeon at the funeral. The funeral was also attended by singer Michael Jackson and the First Lady Barbara Bush on the day of the funeral. Ronald Reagan wrote a tribute to White in appearance of the Washington Post. Reagan's statement about AIDS and White's funeral has been seen. It indicates how greatly White had helped change prescription of AIDS. White was buried in Cicero, close to a former home of his mother in the year of his death. His grave was vandalized on 4 occasions at the time. White's grave became a shrine of his emeritus. So after they had his funeral, somebody came through and vandalized his grave. So I don't understand why people had so much hate towards this guy, towards this boy. The boy wasn't gay, for number one. Number two, the boy had a blood transfusion. So remember, and then not only that, he's been a nice person, and I say rest in peace to Ryan White. So the legacy, White was one of the handful of lightly visible people of AIDS in the 1980s and the early 1990s who helped change the public position of the disease. White, along with actor Rock Hudson, one of the early public faces of AIDS. Other public figures was infested with AIDS, including Keith Haring, Holly Johnson, Freddie Mercury, the Ray brothers, Magic Johnson, Greg Louganis, Arthur Ashe, Limerence, Eazy-E, Tim Richardson, Anthony Perkins, Randy Silas, Ricky Wilson, Robert Reeve, and now but not least, Jerry Smith, who helped to increase public awareness that HIV and AIDS was significantly economic. Now, by the time around White's death, the Indiana University Dance Marathon started in 1991 that raised money for the Raleigh Hospital for Children between 1991 and 2022 for the Raleigh Hospital for the Children at Raleigh. The money raised it also helped funds raise Ryan White's infectious disease clinic at the hospital. So they all raised the money just to get some type of awareness going. White's personal physician, who Holmes was saying he was close friends with Dr. Martin Kleinsman, become the Ryan White's professor of the pediatric of Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis in 1993. Interviewed prominent gay rights and AIDS activist Larry Kramer, says, I think little Ryan White probably did more to change the face of the illness and to move people to anyone. And he continues to be a present through his mama, Jeanette Wilson White. She has a incredibly moved presence as she speaks around the world. In 1992, White's mother founded the national nonprofit Ryan White Foundation. The foundation worked to increase awareness of AIDS and HIV-related issues with focus of hemophilia like White and the family on families caring for relatives with the disease. The foundation was active through the 1990s through donation reaches $300,000 a year. In 1997, between 1997 and 2000, however, AIDS donations declined nationwide by 21%, and the Ryan White Foundation saw the donation level drop to $100,000 a year. In 2000, White's mother closed the foundation and merged to remain assets with the AIDS Action, a larger charity, to become a spokeswoman for AIDS activity and continue to arrange speaking events through the site devoted to her son, RyanWhite.com. No longer online, as October 2020, White's High School, Hampton Heights, has been student government sponsored annual AIDS walk with proceeds going to Ryan White Scholarship Fund. Elton John was cited White's death as a major impetus behind his decision to fight his long-standing alcohol and cocaine addiction. He went to the rehab shortly afterwards and later created the Elton John AIDS Foundation. White became also the inspiration of a handful of popular songs. Elton John donate perceived of the last song which appeared on his album The One to the Ryan White Fund and Raleigh Hospital. Michael Jackson dedicated a song, Gone Too Soon, from his Dangerous album to White, as he did 1980 pop star Tiffany with the song Here's in My Heart on her New Inside album. By November 2007, the Children's Museum in Indianapolis opened an exhibit called The Power of Children and Makes a Difference, which features White's bedroom and belongeth outside alongside Stemler's tribute to Anna Frank and Ruby Bridges. At the White died, Greg Louganis gave his Olympic gold medal to White's mother, and it as part of the display about White at the Children's Museum. In April 2015, Louganis visited the Power of Children exhibit at Janine and see his medal in White's recreated room. And then he said, then the thing I always remember about White is his courage, strength, and sense of humor. The way Ryan lived in his life continues. He to give me his strength and courage doing things that I might not otherwise feel comfortable doing. So all these medals he had gave him was dedicated to Ryan White. They was all dedicated to Ryan White about the AIDS that the first kid had had. And I'm sorry that this is happening. I was a very young kid when all this is happening. And if I was there back then, if I knew them, I'd have gave him a hug, even if he had AIDS or not, because you do not treat nobody different. Everybody is not different. Everybody is human. And they don't understand that when you be with everybody being human, because for you, what condition you have, you still got to treat this person like everybody else. It don't matter would he have AIDS or not. Hit the like button. Now, by the early 1980s, AIDS has known as the gay-related human deficiency because the disease had first been identified among priority homosexual communities in LA, in New York City, and San Francisco at the start of HIV and AIDS epidemic in the United States. So the disease was through a homosexual problem was largely ignored by policymakers. White diagnosis demonstrated by many of the AIDS was not conclusive of homosexual men. You ain't gotta be a homosexual to get it. There's other ways you can catch it. You can catch it from a dirty needle. You can catch it by touching somebody's blood that got AIDS. A blood transfusion. You can catch, it's ways to catch it. It ain't gotta be about gay sex all the time. And they know that. But they over here, because people sit here assuming that this boy was a homosexual, but he wasn't. It was all the blood transfusion. Hit the like button. All the criticism that you saying that what this person had, y'all don't know this boy condition. Y'all wasn't there. So White has been seen by some of the innocent victims of AIDS academic. White and his family strongly rejected the language of innocent victims because the phrase has often used to emphasize that gays with AIDS was guilty. So Ryan always says, I'm just like everyone else with AIDS, no matter how I got it. And he was never had lived as long as he did without the gay community. The people knew in New York made sure that we knew about the latest treatment ways before we could know in Indiana. I hear mothers today said they're not going to work with no gay community of anything. Well, it is coming to your son's life. You better start changing your heart and your attitude around. So let me tell you, y'all don't have to go near it. Anybody in your family can be gay. Gay, some gay people came from, they've been molested before, they've been raped before, they could be raped by a family member, anybody, or they could be around people that's homosexual and they sided. But some people chose to be homosexual, and some people was a victim of a rape. Hit the like button. In August of 1990, 4 months after White's death, Congress inherited that the White Comprehensive AIDS Resource Emergency Care Act, known as the simply of the Ryan White Care Act in his honor, and enacting the United States' largest federally funding program for people living with HIV and AIDS. The Ryan White Care Act funds service of groups serve different programs to improve availability of care for low income, uninsured, that underinsured victims of AIDS of their families has been signed. The Ryan White extended in 2009 was signed by President Barack Obama. Ryan White program has payers as last resort, which is subsidized treatment with no other resource available. The act provides some levels of care around 500,000 people a year in 2004 provide funds of 2,567 organizations. Ryan White programs also provide funding and technical assistance of local state primary medical care providers, support service, healthcare provider in a training program. The act reauthorized in 1996, 2000, 2006, and 2009. Since the Affordable Care Act in 2010 prohibited discrimination on the basis of health status or expanded access to insurance coverage, as some experts debate a need of program like the Ryan White Act. The Ryan White Care Act expires in 2013 with individuals program continue receive Congress funding. By 2024, half of the people diagnosed with HIV in the United States, more than 550,000, will provide care and treatment from the funding program, and 57,000 healthcare professionals treated people with HIV receive education and training. So by that year, people had diagnosed with AIDS more than 550 people. So a lot of people, over millions and millions of people, diagnosed from this disease. They diagnosed from the disease. So ain't nobody is not perfect here. So I want to get a shout out to Jeanette White that put his to represent her son, and she was a good, awesome mother. She was a good, awesome mother. So rest in peace, Ryan White, and rest in peace, Hubbard Wayne White. So thank you for tuning in to Real Talk 100, and we're gonna do some more episodes about this. We're gonna do some more episodes, and we're gonna bring out more. We're gonna bring out some more stories, and we're gonna bring out more, a little bit more everything. And so hit the like button, and subscribe for this channel. Y'all stay safe out there. Real talk.